Hey YouTube, it is League Turnover today, and we have a couple leagues, Ultra League and a Summer Cup Great League Edition. So for those of you who have not actually looked at the schedule yet, we have a Great League every single week of the season. Now, a lot of those Great Leagues, when they're paired with Ultra League and Master League, will be some sort of limited cup. So this week, it is Summer Cup. So it's a 1500 CP Great League with normal, fire, water, grass, electric, and bug. So you know what? Out of all the sort of limited cups we can get, one with 6 typings is not the worst. You can, whenever it comes to these cups, I'll just kind of throw up, you do like just your basic analysis, like, oh, water is going to beat fire, and fire is going to beat grass and bug, and bug's going to beat grass, and electric is just going to beat water, and it's kind of a neutral one for some of these others, and resist by grass. So like you can kind of just do like initial analysis in your head. But what happens with these limited cups is you always have Pokemon with duo typings rising to the top, because usually that duo typing ends up covering your weaknesses here. So Credillia is a prime example. Number 1 ranked Pokemon. It is getting in because it is a grass Pokemon. So grass is going to be weak to fire and bug. So the rock typing neutralizes the fire, so you're only neutral to fire. You are still weak to bug, but you have Rock Tomb, which will hit super effective against both fire and rock. Sorry, both fire and bug. So you have that for coverage. You have the grass knot for your waters. You're just super neutral in most other situations against, like, you resist electric because you're grass. So for not surprising that one of the best Pokemon over the past couple seasons is at the top as well. So let's just go down this list and kind of give you the first impressions of why they're in here. Fortress, same thing as a bug. Bug would normally be weak to like rock, so Credillia and stuff like that. Not that rock is a typing, but it would be weak to that. But you have steel, and steel will help you resist grass and do pretty well against, I guess neutral in pretty much every other situation here. So has the Sand Tomb, Rock Tomb. Again, Bug Bite got buffed. I find it a bit bait dependent. The strength of Fortress with the Bug Bite in this meta compared to sort of outside metas. I mentioned that Bug is resisted by 8 typings. And one of the typings that it is resisted by is fire, but water, neutral, grass, super effective, electric, neutral, bug. I'm pretty sure bug does not resist bug. So we are looking at best only one sort of typing that you need to worry about here that will resist, and normal. I missed normal there, but normal does not resist either. So at best, one typing that you're going to have to resist, that worry about resisting. So when you have a bug bite that got buff and is going to do pretty well, and most of the weaknesses that it resists against are not a main typing in the meta, it's strong. Kingdra and Empoleon, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. Kingdra with the Dragon Breath. There's only a few things that resist Dragon Breath. Steel, Fairy. Those are not one of the main typings anyways. And whenever you get into a limited cup, it was the same thing we just had in the Retro Cup with the Confusion users. If you get into a Retro Cup that has no Dark and Steel, moves that are usually resisted by that are going to dominate. So that's why Confusion was the best. And that same thing with this meta. It doesn't mean that there won't be any fairies in here if they can get in by their secondary typing. And it doesn't mean there won't be any steels in there, hence Empoleon. But when you limit the amount of things that resist your Dragon Breath and your Swift at that, with the steel being resisted there, and Outrage, because Outrage is the nuke, right? So rework of Dragon Breath. You have the quicker Swift, you have the sort of nuke and Outrage that it only takes 15 to get to now, and most of your resistances are not in the meta. So that is why Kingdra has risen to the top. Should be pretty safe as a safe swap. And Empoleon, again, we know what it's like. We did the Beyond the Hype Metal Sound. You get to those moves very, very, very quick. And same thing. Ground is not one of the main typings. It could get in secondary. Fighting is not one of the main typings. Could get in secondary. But for the most part, some of the weaknesses that you have are not in the meta. Electric is in the meta. But potentially with just the Hydro Spam, you can deal with some of those. Crustle, I've used Crustle in Beyond the Hype to test it out. It is kind of an interesting one. I kind of mentioned with the bug having an advantage in this meta just because there's not a lot that resists bug. And Crustle plays the same as sort of like Credillia, where it's one weakness of bug, like one of the main weaknesses in the meta of fire, you neutralize with the rock and you hit super effective with the rock wrecker. And being able to get to that rock wrecker in 13 is great. So having a nice fairy card that's not going to be resisted much. X's are just for a quick move with rock wrecker. If you go against like, I was going to say, if there is like a secondary, no, X's would be resisted on steel too. Oh, ground. Like if you run into a ground and you have to just throw X Scissor, it's a nice spam move. But Rock Wrecker is the way to go. Drumpa, Dropout was one. It's a normal dragon, and it's one of those that played well as a safe swap in one of the limited cups as well. And not surprising with the rework, it's gonna be pretty similar. So think of it as a Kingdra, just with a different secondary typing. One's a water, one's a normal typing. So Dropout should play pretty similar to Kingdra. Could we see? You could see like a Kingdra Dropout backline and then cover. I don't even know what you cover. You're not even, yeah, fairy, I guess, if you think there's a fairy second. I don't even know if there's a fairy in this meta. Morpeko, there is water in this meta. Morpeko is just your absolute nuke, spammy, hard-hitting Pokemon that is very glassy. So cover your Stunfisk and those weaknesses of things that would resist electric, and your Mudslap users here, and you should be good. Stunfisk has risen very kind of as quickly in the ranking over the past few seasons, and it's now like a top 10 in the Open Great League and sitting at number 11 here. Again, Discharge got buffed a couple seasons ago, so just like the spam on Discharge now with Mud Bomb, and it just provides you fantastic coverage, right? You resist some of these electric Pokemon, you resist some of these other, what else do you resist? Rock Pokemon, and then at the same time you have coverage for flyers, you have coverage for water, you have coverage for things that steals, so it's just a really nice cover Pokemon. Togedemaru, again, there are a bunch of waters in this Pokemon, and electric is not resisted by much. Grass is basically one of the only things that are going to resist it, but when you have a wild charge, much like your Aura Wheel and Morpeko, it does not matter. Morpeko gets the advantage because it can change its Aura Wheel and has that Psychic Fangs bait. So like if you get against a Pokemon like Credillia that resists electric, your second turn next time would be like a Dark Aura Wheel, which could still one-shot there after, especially if you boost it. Gastrodon, your Mudslap user, there's Stunfisk and Morpekos and electric and stuff weak to ground, and you're just a Mudslap user, and your Water Pulse coverage now for like, I was gonna say, what are you gonna get Water Pulse coverage for here? Not much. You could run Earth Power on it. I do like Water Pulse in the open meta, but you can then potentially run Earth Power on it. Diggersby, yes, Scorching Sands got nerfed the same way that Crunch got nerfed on Drapion, in the fact that they're both still going to be awesome. So it does not matter. Scorching Sands got that nerf on the attack. The chance of the attack lowering the opponent's defense. Sorry, my camera and mic are very off on the audio right now. Toxapex, you haven't seen a lot of Toxapex in the open meta, just because if you looked at my meta analysis yesterday, you can see that it is very ground heavy. So with ground not being one of the main typings, yes, there are ground Pokemon. You can see Toedscruel and Stunfisk, but as ground not being one of the main typings, a little more freedom in here. Yes, there's electric. Yes, there's some ground, so it's still going to be a bit of an issue. Shadow Vic, again, not really a razor leaf fast move damage Pokemon anymore, running acid, so spamming those leaf blades in 10. Those leaf blades come pretty quick and hit pretty hard, so nice option there. Samurott is just a poor man's Empoleon. I think you just use Empoleon, but you know what? If you want to run double Hydro Cannon users, you have an option there in Samurott. Toedscruel, gonna cover the electric, gonna cover some rock type Pokemon because you resist rock as well. So that ground grass typing, very unique and strong. And Dunsparce making its way back to the top 20. It is a Pokemon that has a lot of coverage, with your grounds covering your steels and your rocks, and your rock slide covering your flyers and your fires and stuff like that. So lots of coverage on that Pokemon. So let's take a look at the potential teams that you can use here. If I can click the buttons properly. Okay. So I started with Credillia because that's the number one Pokemon, and then obviously when you use Credillia, you quickly learn that it is an incredible safe swap. So then I essentially paired it with two Pokemon that kind of cover each other's weaknesses. Started with Stunfisk. Stunfisk, very spammy. Doesn't hit super hard, but a lot of great coverage. But you got to cover your grass, water, and ground weakness. So I covered grass, water, and ground with Dartrix as your grass Pokemon. I forget if it's half flying Pokemon as well. But it is a very, very strong Pokemon. I've gone against it a couple times in the open meta already, Open Great League, and it's definitely got some answers. And then Credillia will be your safe swap here. So start with Stunfisk on the lead, or you can start with either on the lead. Doesn't matter which one really, but if you're going to start with Stunfisk on the lead, you see a Mud Boy, you see depends on what the water Pokemon is, because you're electric, so you can hit super effective against water, but it's mostly if you see like a ground or grass, you can bail into Credilli, and then determine whether you want to fight for switch and how much, if you can flip switch, and what you need to do to flip switch. So Fortress, I kind of mentioned, there's not a ton that resists bug in this meta. The main one is going to be fire. That's why Turtonator, Turtonator is also going to incinerate it like crazy. You're double weak to fire. So fires are your issue. So cover your fire weakness. So I covered the fire weakness with Gastrodon, and then you need a safe swap. And I'm using Pharaoh as the safe swap. You can go to my analysis yesterday morning where I covered Pharaoh beyond the hype there. Very weird one in the different shield scenarios and the different energy scenarios. So in of itself, is Pharaoh a good Pokemon? No. Is Pharaoh a good Pokemon with a very specific safe swap, one shield peck advantage? Yes. So go check out that analysis. Pharaoh can potentially flip matchups because it has access to that drill run that can hit your rock and your steel that you were otherwise going to have problems with, and electric. So being able to hit with that drill run makes it the potential to flip matchups there, which is what you want in a safe swap, or at least grab shields so potentially your back Pokemon can run. Okay, so Kingdra to start. Dragon Breath is not going to be resisted by much in this meta at all, so it's pretty safe. So potentially you can also use Kingdra as a safe swap. I just used it on the lead, and then what did it? I'm trying to think if I paired it with Toadscroll first and then or I went Crustle first. But basically, Kingdra, you got to watch your fairy. There's not a lot of fairy in this meta. Grass is neutral because you're half dragon. Kingdra's going to be pretty safe. I think the dragons are going to have a pretty good time in this meta, so don't be surprised if you see a double dragon. Crustle, I do think, is pretty strong as well, having the Rock Wrecker, because that was going to put down a lot of Pokemon. And then your waters are going to be, your water and Empoleon is going to be a tough issue for Crustle, so that's why I paired it with Toadscroll as a Mud Slap user. I definitely paired, maybe I actually changed the order on this. I would go Crustle lead, Kingdra safe swap, Toadscroll in the back, because Crustle is going to have problems with sort of rock type Pokemon and steel type Pokemon. And if you can cover that with Toadscroll in the back as like a pairing, Kingdra could be your safe swap. So just might want to reorder that a bit there, but both should be pretty strong. Actually, all three of these should be pretty strong in this meta. Okay, going a little off here. So I started with, I know I have Empoleon in here, but Empoleon is going to be as a safe swap. So I will have a open Great League Venusaur team coming in, a couple weeks when Great League comes back. So I did use Venusaur. If you look at my meta analysis, I think grass should be on the rise given the state of the meta of ground and water and even ghosts and stuff like that. So grass can just cover a lot. So I used Venusaur in the Open Great League and it played well. So I'm going to test it out here as well. So obviously you need to cover stuff that will resist the grass. So any sort of steel, and you need to cover your fire. So what covers steel and fire? Your Quagsire. So Quagsire is going to cover that. Quagsire is obviously going to have problems with grass, and your grass is the main one. Obviously you're double weak to grass, and there is a good amount of grass here. So you have a grass lead with sludge to deal with the grass. You have Empoleon, which has the Metal Sound Drill Peck combo that can kind of deal with those as well in the mid game. That is your safe swap there. And then Empoleon is weak to electric, but you have two Pokemon that resist electric there. Okay. Drop a Jellicent, Ninetales. Again, I'm just mostly putting up balanced teams just because I think they're the easiest to run. So Jellicent, Ninetales is your core to cover each other's weaknesses. Jellicent's grass and electric. So for sure, Ninetales is going to deal with the grass issue. Ninetales is pretty spammy overall now. Going to have problems with other fires and water, and other fires and water will be handled by Jellicent. But what handles electric, grass, water, and that is Drampa. So this is why I would not be surprised. I don't have a double dragon team on here. Don't be surprised if you see a Kingdra, Drampa, double dragon team, because dragons will be very, very safe in this meta. So just be aware of that. But again, otherwise, just a very balanced team. Find the core, find a safe swap in this meta, and you should have a good time. Morpeko, Toadscroll, and Gyarados. So I think Gyarados is going to be, I don't know if it's a safe swap. Morpeko, you just need to watch out for some electric that will resist your electric move. But you can change the aura wheel, so it's kind of a unique Pokemon that way. But it's just the ground mostly, and fighter, I guess, too. But ground and fighter. So what beats ground and fighter? Gyarados as a flying water. So Gyarados with that Dragon Breath, now spamming those Aqua Tails very, very quick there. And then because Morpeko, depending on the electric, could have a bit of a problem, like if it's a Stunfisk, could be a bit of a problem, and Gyarados going to have a problem with electric, that is where Toad Scroll comes in. A ground grass, triple resisting electric, double resisting on the ground, single resisting on the grass. So that is where Toad Scroll comes in to deal with those electrics. That's why you can see the hard wins against like Dedenne and Magnezone and Morpeko and Stunfisk, because Toad Scroll needs to deal with those. So again, you can't really go in, depending on when you see these Pokemon, depending on what it is, like if you go against a Dedenne on the lead, honestly, I think you just stay in and just go straight Aura Wheel, because Aura Wheel is such a hard hitting move and it really, really hurts. So I think a lot of those you play out, and I think the only ones you don't play out is if it's like a Stunfest, like a Mud Boy, or like a Mud Boy, like a Gastrodon. I think those would be problems that you probably want to leave immediately. But some of these other electrics, I think Morpeko with its just damage and being able to change to dark, I think it's just a very strong Pokemon. And last team here, put in Togedemaru because again, it was been a favorite of mine, but do you need to use Togedemaru? Not when you have Morpeko, but if you want to use it, Wild Charge is still going to be a beast in this meta, and it spans very quickly. Again, you need to cover ground. So everything on basically what Morpeko is covering, ground, not fairy because you were steel, but ground, fighter, fire as a steel here. So try to cover all those with 2 bulky Pokemon, because you're basically just going to spam the Wild Charge and bail into something. Araquanid and Diggersby. I think Diggersby is probably more safe than Araquanid, because Araquanid just get hit by like electric or rocks and stuff like that. But Diggersby is pretty safe in this meta. And then in the back end there, we'll cover some of your ground weakness and fighting weakness. And actually, there's not a lot of fighters. I don't even know if there's a fighter in the meta. You should probably, let me just actually, there's 2 typings that could be kind of sneaky picks, depending on if they're in the meta or not. And let me just do behind the scenes. Not so much behind the scenes. Here it is right here. Let me look at fighting. Is there any fighting Pokemon? That's not how you write. What are the, holy smokes, man. What are the fighting Pokemon in this meta? So Poliwrath, like you may see some Poliwraths, but it's even ranked 117. So it, again, going to have some problems. There's a decent amount of grass and stuff like that. But, you know, if there's more Pekos and if there's Empoleons and if there's just a lot of stuff like that, counter user might not be the worst case scenario. So if you're looking for a potential counter user, there is Poliwrath. There is a Decidueye with Aura Sphere. But pretty rare. And Chestnut, I guess, with superpower. So there are some Pokemon with fighting type moves, but not a lot of them, which is why some of these things weak to fighting, I don't mind making a team double weak to fighting because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of them. And Fairy, right, Dedenne is the main one. Oh yeah, I guess Azumarill and Wigglytuff are in this meta. So we will see if you see some Charm users against all these. Again, I think if you start seeing a lot of double dragons, you may start seeing more Azumarill and Wigglytuff. So we'll see how the meta evolves. It's only 1 week long. The meta should evolve pretty quickly. I would expect a healthy dose of sort of these top ranked Pokemon. Like I expect to see a lot of double dragons. I expect to see a lot of Empoleons. I expect to see a lot of Cordillis, Stunfisk, Gastrodon, just your normal Pokemon. And then we'll see where the meta goes. If you start seeing a lot of double dragon, you probably then start seeing some fairies. Probably start seeing Azumarill and you start seeing Wigglytuff. And if you see those, I guess Steel is the last one besides Empoleon. Is there any other Steels besides Empoleon here? Oh, and Fortress. Oh yeah, Togedemaru, right? So I've named a couple. Magnezone. You may see some of these like double electric teams that cover and then have a Magnezone and maybe Morpeko. If you want to get very risky, Morpeko safe swap. Pull out a ground, punish it with like a grass, and then have your Magnezone or something, or Togedemaru roam free in the back. Could be a little more risky, but could be a little fun. So we'll see how the meta evolves to deal with what I think is going to be a pretty early dose of double dragons. And that's one that I may start with too, because I just think it's going to be safe. But let me know if... I know Summer Cup was just on, but I think just between all the buffs here with the Dragon Breath users and Cressel with Rock Record, and Empoleon with Metal Sound. Like, I just think the meta's changed too much that you don't really need to focus on old teams. I think you just kind of need to focus on the new meta here. Toxapex, yeah, you can run Toxapex to deal with the everything and then just cover your steel weakness with like a Mudboy or something. So there's options here. And we got a week with it. So let me know what you're going to play. Any Pokemon here that you think are like sneaky picks that are going to have a good time, or if it's just going to be like these top 15 Pokemon and then we're going to get bored in 4 days. Let me know in the comments below. That is it. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.